So the painter scene setup here is what drives everything inside Unreal, the master material. It's all based on RGBA masking. So how it works, it's quite simple actually, but quite powerful also, and sort of semi-procedural, and quite flexible as well. So at the bottom layer here is where we're going to be painting these effects. So there's just a basic a generator here, and then you can tune that obviously up or down for the wear, and then there's a paint layer above that, and this paint layer then is being have an anchor point here, and that's being referenced then up here on this peeled edges. You can see that peeled edges is what drives this kind of bubbling old sort of heavy industrial paint, and just various stack of effects here, and then it's obviously referencing this mask from down here. So that's there's sort of just painted there, and then it's referencing that up the stack with this the anchor point. So they're the kind of main effects driving it, and then this is just the wells layer, because with the design of this stuff I had a lot of hand painted. I wanted to do a lot of this welding to make it, to give that sort of grim, dark, high tech, low tech, sort of heavy industrial look to it. So I knew there was going to be a lot of welding on it. So that's just a basic weld there, using one of the preset weld brushes and painter, and that's that effect. Then the alpha B, so alpha B is just basically, that is wherever I want, that's going to be in the alpha channel of the packed material, or sorry, the packed texture. So wherever I want a different color paint, so as you can see from the finished assets, it shows a sort of a grey and then a yellow. That can be changed to anything you want inside Unreal in the material instance, but you sort of decide here what you want to be, yellow paint or whatever color paint, the alternate paint. So that's why the layer material is called paint B over in Unreal. So that's what that is. And then this is just for the clean mask. So in the material instance in Unreal, you can I've exposed the parameter there, so a static switch parameter, so you can have clean paint or more old kind of worn paint, and the old worn paint is this effect here. So that's basically being driven by the same mask anchor point here, that metal scratch below. So the very first mask at the bottom drives the next effect, and then the metal scratch, wherever that gets scratched off, you get this as well. So it gives you a sort of a blend here based on that peeled off heavy sort of peeled bubbly paint, and then it gives you a nice base to paint over. And then wherever this shows up as white, your material will be brightest, and then down to shades of grey where the material, so you get nice variation on the paint. And then obviously black, then that's where it's scratched off, but it's still sort of slightly worn away, so it gives you a nice effect. And it's also pretty much free, because you're channel packing it into the same texture, and also you can just use the masks below here to get this effect. So that's all that is. And then these, the RGB masks are just, they can be whatever you want to be, but in my case this is steel, so anywhere where it's red is going to be steel, where the paint is chipped away we can see steel, and then the green is rust, and the blue is just is dirt or dust. So this is also referencing the green, the rust is also referencing the anchor point below. So you can adjust this, so wherever you start to paint, so wherever I start to paint, you can see that the rust is following the steel, so it's starting to rust at the edges here where it started to peel first. So wherever the paint starts to peel, you get a blend then of the rust. And then you can also I just have a levels here, so if you want you can turn that levels on, and then you can either blend out the rust or crunch it in then to give you more rust. So that's fully controllable there. Same thing, all driven by those anchor points. And then I have a rust bump here as well that I added in. So you can see here that there's a bump on the rust. And you can disable that for a lighter sort of rust where it's just surface rust that you could sand off the paint, or turn on the bump so that it's more it's eaten away, corroded into the paint, and it's actually into the surface below. So that's kind of, you can either have that in your mask or not in Unreal, whether you want to have light sort of rust or heavier rust. And that's just the dirt then. So these are all driven just by they all have that anchor point, and the anchor point for this is obviously where we're chipping away here, and the same for the wear level. We can bring that right down and then paint on top of that. And then the dirt, yeah, that's just dirt. And then for each one, then depending on the asset, you can lower this, raise it up, lower it, less or more dirt, less or more rust, obviously. Do all that, and then you can add paint layers on top and just add in. You see where I've just used UV masking here within the mask and the paint layer to just completely get rid of the paint on these. Just instead of painting it off manually, you can just use the masks then, so that's fully steel here rather than paint. Or if you want as well, like same for these handles, you could just paint that off, like really old industrial sort of equipment that's not used, that might have been painted over for years and years with lead paint, and it's nearly painted closed. But in this case, I took all that off because you want to give the idea that okay, this stuff is old and heavily painted, but it's still in use, so it's not going to be painted. The hinges aren't going to be completely painted over. So that was the idea there, and that's basically it then. It's very easy once you have this set up once, and then I have this saved as smart material Uber mask, so everything is in that, including the paint effect. So all I have to do here is just each of these, this is the cabinets, these are obviously unwrapped to the same texture sheet, and then I just import over this with the next asset and then resave the file, so every single one has its own, because they're all on their own texture sheet and they're all using their own RGBA textures. So I'm just saving out new files for each asset, and then it's very simple. You just import over that, rebake your maps, because they're using world space, ambient occlusion, curvature and position. Don't need a normal map, so you just rebake your maps, and sorry, go back here. Rebake your maps for each asset you import, and this will all be set up already. So the only thing you have to do is just, if you had any custom paint layers for that specific asset, just remove them and re-add them, and then paint again for your new asset. Same with the welds. Obviously you want to just remove custom paint weld layers and then re-add them again for each new asset. And that's pretty much it then. To export sorry, before I go there, this is the most important part of this, is if you come here to say this layer, you can see here I have user 0. So you have to make sure that you add in these channels here, 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's red, green, blue, and then that's the alpha, so RGBA. So each of these channels you want to turn on, add all these in first for each scene. Well, because you're importing over the same scene, you shouldn't have to add them in, and they'll already be there. Just make sure to resave a new file. And then you see here, this has user 0, and this has user 1 and user 2, and then I believe the alpha is, sorry, the alpha is here. The alpha has user 3. So once you have all that set up, because you'll get an error otherwise if you don't have these users properly set up, and when you go to use the preset. So say for instance, now I didn't name any of this stuff. You can name all of this. I don't, because I'm always moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I don't keep naming everything all the time. I usually just name it all. Like I'll name the assets when I get into Unreal. I'll just name them in there, and then you know, you could keep everything tidy from the start and rename all the stuff in Blender, name all the materials properly so that they come up here as a texture set. But really, I've only one texture set, so I don't need to know what's what. This one here is showing up because I would have been importing over this with other files that would have come in with a material, and then when you import something else that has a different material, this one gets grayed out, so you don't even worry about that. It's non-existent in the scene, so it doesn't even matter. So for the templates here, I have this RGBA masks template, and all that is here is RGBA packed. So you can see red, there's the user channels 0, 1, 2 and 3 RGBA, and then just a normal map here, and that's it. Then that's your template. Then you're only exporting 2 textures, your packed map and your normal map, and that's it then pretty much. Output and up to general. I usually just you can just choose whatever here. Usually 4K, as I said, you can downsize in the engine, and they were all 8-bit PNGs. You could also use TGAs or Unreal, but I just use PNGs, and that's pretty much it then. And then usually while I'm texturing, I'll have the asset open in Unreal. Once your master materials all set up, I'll have it open, and then all you have to do is just keep, export here, and then in Unreal I'll have those textures already. Once I save them here first, go into your texture folder, add these in their own subfolder for this asset, and then just keep re-importing them. Then I'll show when I'm over in Unreal, I'll show it then, and you're just right clicking re-import, and it'll update the textures automatically. So it's very easy to do look dev between Painter and Unreal. And that is pretty much it for the Painter video. I was going to do 4 videos, but this one's very short, so I'll probably just I'll put the Unreal one in this as well. So finally we come to the Unreal section, and this is just an asset showcase map that I have laid out here for I want to upload this to the marketplace or to the fab. So this is essentially the whole kit here, textured and ready to go, and this is all the parts that make up the demo level, and then I just have the props laid out here as well, just to get a screenshot. So I'm going to go through these now. I'm going to start with the materials, because the materials is one of the main parts of the whole scene here that's driving everything. You can see here pretty much everything here. The only things that don't have, they have their own material. The decal sheet here, and this screen, so that's for the computers, and then these computer kind of monitors here, and they're just, obviously that's just a a clone of that with a few augmentations. It's already been unwrapped and textured, so it's a new mesh but using the same material and texture, so it's pretty much more or less free. Same with that, it's just that part taken out, and then you have these tiles that are taken out. So this is what I was saying about when you make the kit, you know, you can use all these parts for other things. There's that dwarf lintel there, other lintels. These are parts that are just broken off from you know, walls and things that have already been finished, textured, and you're using all the same materials. And you know, that's the great thing about these modular kits. You can keep on expanding, and even when you get into the engine here, some of the new modeling tools in later versions of Unreal, you can use them to quickly make new parts. Like I don't think it's in this, but the stair step is just one of these lintels, just booleaned within Unreal, that was already textured and all the rest, and then I just needed a part for a staircase step. So instead of going and making a new asset and all the rest, I was able to quickly do it here in Unreal. So it's handy to have those modeling tools here. You can reset pivots and everything as well, so all that pivot stuff I talked about, you can actually set pivots here, and also temporarily set them in here temporarily, and you can also set them permanently, but you have to be careful that if you have everything set up and then you change a pivot, your piece will snap in relation to where it is within that level instance, we'll say. So you just have to be mindful of that. Make sure to set all your pivots how you want them, or else if you do change them, you have to go in and just remember that you'll have to move any part associated from the content browser. If you change it in here, or change it in the content browser, or if you change it in the viewport in the editor even, it'll change the original, or else you can just duplicate them and change the pivot if you want a new part. So that's pretty much it then for all the modular parts. And here's the level instances, here's the materials. So these are the main, this is the main material, the master material here. I'm usually working on a 4K screen, so I had to shrink all this stuff down for let me see, I might just make the thumbnails a bit bigger so you can see them. Shrink this stuff down for recording in this 1980 or sorry 1920 resolution. So yeah, these are the parts. This is the master material, and if you pop in here, you'll see all this is referencing the material layers. It's a layered system, so this master material is holding all these layers in this material function here, and that's all it is. And this here is actually, as you can see here, it's commented out, it's optional. This is just the normal map, and this is just exposing the normal map with these parameters, with this parameter here inside the final material instances that you use. So that's all that is, the material master. And then here's the layers that references, and these are the materials. So I'll open up one of these. I didn't show it in the Substance Painter video, but basically this is using textures here. So these textures I just created, I just imported an unwrapped plane mesh into Substance Painter, a square plane mesh into Substance Painter, and just created materials for these base materials just as a sort of default. And these are just packed maps as well, the ORM, the normal, and the base color. And all of these parameters here are all exposed in the material, the material where this is all set up. I'll show you now in a second. So basically what you're doing is, you can see here it has all loads of different controls, so it's fully customizable. Dirt overlay, grunge overlay, these are all extra. These aren't part of the dirt that's included in this material. These are all just extra details you can add on top. And then there's full UV controls. As I said, this is all set up in the material. I'll show you in a few minutes. So basically you're just making these from regular texture maps. So I have the two different paint variations here. Then I made some more. These are all material instances, and they're all coming from the master layer material. That's where everything is set up, all the textures and all the different parameters that are exposed. So the master material is showed with the mesh normal detail that's referencing these layers. Well, these layers get dropped into the final material that goes on to the assets, but it's all driven then by this. So basically you just have your base color, and these are the maps I just showed you a minute ago with that the layer material instance. These are the maps that I exported from Substance Painter, just tiling maps, nothing to do with what I showed in Painter. They're just regular tiling maps. So you have your base color, roughness, metallics. There's the dirt overlay parameter that you saw. There's the grunge overlay, and the normal controls. Now this normal here is tile and detail normal. This isn't the mesh normal from Painter that I showed where you're chipping away the paint. That's the mesh normal. This is the tiling normal. So this is the normals from the tiling textures, which are completely separate from those mesh normals. And that's the beauty of this kind of hybrid system here, is that you've full control over all these tiling materials as well. You can swap them out for anything you want just by swapping the maps, and then you have full control over the parameters of the instance. UV controls, separate UV controls for the grunge, separate UV controls for the dirt overlay, and that's pretty much it then. So it's just a material attribute, so that's going through that, and then the actual materials that are going to be applied to these are in here. So say for instance double door floor, this just has all that's here in the details. Is this is your mesh normal that comes from Substance Painter, specific to each asset, and then the layer parameters, that's where you drop in. That's where you drop in those layers I showed. So in this case we have base paint, the base paint B, and that's the mask that I showed over in Substance Painter, and the black and white mask that tells Unreal where this other paint is going to be. Steel that's revealed from the chipping. There's the rust, and then the dirt on top. So here's the you can see here, if I come down here, there's the alpha. So that mask there, the RGBA mask, the alpha is dictating this base secondary base color, base paint color. This is the red channel for the steel, as we showed in Painter. Blue channel for the rust, green channel for the rust, and blue channel for the dirt. And also within here, all those parameters within those layers, these are all exposed here as well. So there they all are here. You can adjust everything within these rather than adjust them in those layers. You can adjust them per globally within those layers. You can just adjust them per material instance here, depending on each asset. So as you see, I have full control over absolutely everything. That's that clean paint switch, and I'm going to show that in a second where that mask is plugged in, because there's other elements that drive this as well. Your layer blend, just going to close this down. So these layer blends, all these are what I usually set up first. So say for instance when I bring the maps in from Painter, the RGBA mask and the normal map, this is where you want to put the RGBA mask, and this is the secondary mask that's has clean paint, so that's just a static switch. So you know, if it has clean paint, then it's false that this map with the old paint is false, and then if it has clean paint, it's true. So that's all that is, just a switch in the material instance. So you drop your RGBA mask in here in the layer blend, these layer blends, and then the layer blend tells the material where to put these layers based on the RGBA mask, and then these are the materials that you're going to apply to the assets in the scene, and that's pretty much it. And you have full control over absolutely everything. So let me see where I go. Double doors main. If we come down here, for instance, to I'm just going to shrink this down. Maybe this, the double doors. So you can see here, there's the mask where the paint is all sort of old and worn, and you know, color variation and everything in it. And that's where you can use the clean paint switch. So it has clean paint, yes. Oh, sorry, yeah, I'm clicking on the wrong one here, moron. Down here, this yellow one here, so it has clean paint. And then we get a clean paint. It still has the variation from the texture. So it still has a nice variation. It's not just a solid color. It has variation from the texture. So as I said, you can drop any texture you want into these, any tiling textures you want. And also, we turn off that has clean paint, and down to where's it again? Layer asset. Not for that one. No, sorry. Layer asset here. We can just add a solid color onto that instead. Now it still hasn't got the clean. It still hasn't got the clean paint because I haven't enabled that here. But you can see by just doing that as solid color, you can easily then swap out the color without having to swap out the texture. Now that'll be a solid texture, solid color, so it won't have the texture variation, but it'll still have this the old paint kind of look. And then if you don't want that, you just turn on has clean paint, and then it's clean paint, no texture variation. And you can do that for any of these materials. Swap out the maps, swap out the colors. Has an overlay, so that's a different type of overlay driven by this mask here, and then you have full control over that. Color of the dirt, the mask, brightness, contrast. That's the crunch the levels, tiling, offset, rotation, so you have full control over that. And the same for the grunge, and then normal adjust, and then metallic as well. So this has, has it got solid metallic, so you've full control over pretty much over everything, as much as you can have by just having this one master material. Now it can take a while initially to set it all up, but once you set this up, you never have to set it up again, and then you can add new parameters to it and duplicate or instance the instances, and you can get a completely different look for the level. So this could be all completely clean. You can take off these other layers. So say for instance, we can either disable the normal altogether, or we can obviously just take the strength down, or in the layer parameters, and we can just disable these, the rust, the dirt, disable the steel, keep the kind of where the paint is damaged but it's not showing steel through, and then you could lessen the normal here, or even put that back up, or even go crazy with the normal if you wanted to. And that's pretty much it then. Come down here within the same material and change this as well. So it has solid color, and maybe put that to a white. And then you can see very quickly you can change the entire look of the level. You get something a bit more you know, stylized or whatever. So turn off this dirt overlay. Maybe that white's a bit too crazy. Make that a bit of an off white. Yeah, and you can see then you could easily change the whole look of the level just by adjusting all those parameters, and you never have to go into these. You don't have to touch these unless you want to change out, if you're going to change out these maps, but you just update them here in textures, and they're all in here, RGBA masks, and that's all you do. You're just going to be, and you're updating these, same when you're doing the look dev, you're just going to export from Painter and then just re-import that, and everything will update, all the instances, the whole lot. And yeah, once you get this set up, and then you can obviously save out the master material and the whole setup, and then just migrate to other projects, and it's already set up. All you need to do is bring in your RGBA mask from Painter, and you can run those assets through Painter really quickly. So that's pretty much it then for the material setup. So next we'll move on to the meshes, the base kind of parts. And as I said in one of the other videos, where I'm usually iterating and going back and forth between Painter and Blender and even Modular, so I'm not naming everything along the way because things are changing. I'm combining and recombining, separating different assets, so I don't bother changing materials. I don't bother naming all the stuff along the way, but as soon as I get to Unreal, I strictly name everything. Everything goes into folders, everything gets strictly named, everything's using the Unreal, like all the meshes are SM prefix, textures are T, using the standard sort of Unreal naming conventions and keeping everything clean. And it really pays off, because in Unreal as well, a lot of people who start using it coming from 3D packages, and they don't know why you can't delete things, or projects get broken if you delete things, so they try to force delete them outside a folder. But all the while Unreal is storing new assets and redirectors in those folders that you can't see within the editor content browser, but you can see them on your C drive or wherever you have the project saved. So I always have this filter on here, the redirectors, so then you can see exactly what's happening. Now this scene is completely cleaned, it doesn't have any redirectors. But say for instance I rename this, or I drag it from here into a different folder, Unreal is going to use a redirector as a kind of a middleman that points the way to say, yeah, if you're looking for this asset here, it used to be here but now it's over here, and it tells you then, it tells itself where to look so things don't go missing and paths get broken, and then the project starts to get broken. So you can't just delete things willy-nilly in here. You have to, if you right click there, there has to be redirectors there, but if you right click on the redirector, you can clean it up and then delete the redirector, and Unreal will clean that up for you. Or you can go right to the top here, all with show redirectors on, and they'll all show up here. You can just Control A and then just do them all in one batch, just to keep things clean. And it's the same for renaming, but once you do that and you clean up your renamers, if you reopen the editor, empty folders should, Unreal should delete them itself. Sometimes it doesn't, and you can just delete them. You have to make sure there's no redirectors in them, or it just will not do it, or else it will break it if you force delete them outside in your C drive or wherever the project's saved. So with that out of the way, which I think is an important thing to mention, we jump in here, basic section. So this is where, that's first straight section we made in Modular, and as you can see here, we've got snapping on a 5, and quickly snap out. And with this as well, I have it sort of designed in a way that I usually just work with high here when I'm editing stuff, and then I might switch to cinematic, and depending on what I'm doing or if I'm playtesting the level, but usually just keep it at high. just to keep, just so that the graphics card isn't wearing all the time. So yeah, that's where you can see now how exactly where those pivots were set up, and you can quickly snap pieces together. And then, as I showed, pull that column in, and then because this first part I centered it up here, I'll just stretch this a little bit out. I just reset it then to 0, 0, 0, and that's in place where we had it set up in Blender. And then you can quickly just snap that around 180, and then it's in place. And then just snap this out and select the two of them. And I'm just holding Alt here, and then we can just drop a wall in, zero it out, it's in place. And then same, you can just drag that out, or the same thing, you can just rotate holding Alt, and then minus on the Y, I think it is on the X, -1, that's in place. And the same thing, you can build up, this is how I just built up the pieces. And the only thing I would say about this negative scale, if you're using level instances, and any piece within the level instance has negative scale, and then you scale, negative scale the level instance. Say if you have a corner piece and you want to flip it so the corner's going left to right, the level instance, you can't do it with the level instance, because whatever has negative scale inside there is gonna get flipped back again, because it's getting double scaled across whatever axis. So it's just simply a matter of right click, break the level instance, select all the parts, flip them or scale them negatively to the way you want, and then create another new level instance. And in that case, the one you drag out is going to be, say, 90-degree turn left. Just save the new one as 90-degree turn right, and it'll be fine then. And once you have your level instance saved and you drag it into the scene, you can do anything with it, break it up, change parts around, it won't matter, because you're essentially breaking the connection there with the instance once you break it, and then you can resave it under a different name. So that's basically it for how this is going to be snapping together. So you don't want to be doing this to build out your whole level, so that's why I use those level instances. So I just want to show a quick example with the four-way piece. So the four-way piece, floor base. So remember I said it was just a quarter of a piece, and this is at 0, 0, 0, the pivot. So it's just, I'm going to go Control D and then -1, select the two of them, Control D, and I don't know why Unreal does this weird thing where it offsets it 5 on the grid when you duplicate. It only happens sometimes, it's some sort of a bug. And then -1, and there's the floor then is laid out. So there's the center piece, zero that out, duplicate that, or even you don't have to duplicate it in this case, you can just rotate it, Alt held down, and same then, put the column in, snap that, and then you can rotate that, grab the two of these, rotate them. I'm holding Alt every time, and that's your piece then. So once you put the roof on, and these trims, zero them out, rotate, so zero that out, and then just across the X, -1. So then just grab any of these, same again, duplicate, zero it out. If anybody knows why that weird thing happens there, where it's just a bug I think, but let me know. It's quite annoying, because sometimes when you do it with multiple pieces, it doesn't work. So -1. Oh, that was weird, I don't know what happened there. So 3 pieces in there. Yeah, not sure what happened there. So I will duplicate that. I'll just zero out this, and then Y -1. and that'll be it then. You just put your roof on, put all the pipes in, blah blah blah, and then as I said in the modeler video, once the footprint is in here, you can build this whatever way you want, as long as the roof of course matches as well, but it's obviously not as critical as the floor. So that's it then. That's pretty much how you put these together, these level instances, and then once you have it all set up, and then you know you like to, as your sort of, you can play test here, set up a first person controller and just go in and play test and make sure it's all looking good, and then drag in from the basic section you can drag a floor in here, and then just, you know, snap that, make sure that's all lining up. And the way I designed this, the grates line up here, so it's an easy way to test, or you can do it from back here, like, and you can pretty much, or even if the part is over here, you can easily kind of drag it in and get an idea. I usually have these orange outline things turned off in Unreal, but as I said, this is migrated to this new project to clean up for the marketplace, so I forgot to turn that off. But anyway, yeah, so that's pretty much it then. And then once you have all that set up there, you know, just select all the parts, and then once they're all selected, just right click level, and then you can create a level instance or create a packed level actor. I'm creating these level instances because the lights are blueprints, so you can put blueprints into the level instance, and that's it then. You create the instance, and I'll show them next. So these are all these level instance prefabs that I keep going on about, and you can see over here I have I forgot to change that back. I made 29 of them in total, all different sorts of parts to kind of cover as many different scenarios, so that you don't have to keep going back and remaking all the stuff from the basic parts. Once you have those basic parts, you make these larger prefabs, and then it's really easy to snap all these together. And then, as I said, you can break the level instances. So once I drag this in here, I can do anything I like with that in here. Once, if I break it up, I can break it here, level, break, and you can also edit. If you edit it, then you go into that, and whatever you change in here, it'll change the root instance, it'll change all of these because they're still connected. But if you want to, you can also just, as I said, break it apart into its component parts in the scene, and then it's not connected to this anymore. You could do whatever you want, then connect it back together as a new level instance, and then save it out here. That is, these are all the parts. So double door, single door, tunnel section, they're just kind of variants, floor variants. That's the straight section, dead end section, another tunnel, and this material that was using, that floor part was using that other material, so that's why you're seeing these white pieces here, look, because I changed that on the door. It's using the same material because that's just a part stolen from that floor and repurposed. So that's another, that's just like a narrow tunnel section. That is a joiner for the stairs, and that's like an alcove. That's the narrow 90 staircase, like a double alcove. This is for the room section, end cap. And as I said, these can be more or less infinite here, and you can just expand that out with a section, that middle section that I showed in the modeler video. That's T-junction, and that's the wider 90 section, four-way section that we just looked at, and the middle room section. See, that roof is using that material as well. Three-way, same as that. And yeah, that's pretty much so all the parts. Just various different staircases, straight section, a variation on the straight section, so they don't all look exactly the same. Then 90 section and a U-turn section, and that is pretty much the showcase for all those prefabs, level instances. So the demo level map here, the sandbox map, I come back out of it. This is just all those level instances snapped together. So just using all the different parts, and then you have parts where, you know, there's some custom parts as well where parts join up and you can just add in some pieces. And I think I mentioned that back in the modular video, and there's a couple of examples. I think there's three in this map. I think one of them is here. So yeah, it's here. There was this, when these two were going to join up, there was this little section left over, so I just added in some bulkhead out of those joists, put some of these in here, small wall section, bit of that floor, and then it gives you a little custom part of the map where that only exists there, so it's an extra bit of variation. And same for this part here, where I added some of these loose floor tiles over a generic section, then just added in an extra one of these, two shorter walls, roof piece, and a couple of joists, and then I just threw some of those spotlights in there just for an extra bit of variation, so you can easily create the custom parts without having to worry about. So there's two custom parts when you turn this corner that won't be anywhere else in the map, so it gives you that variation, and they're very quick to set up. You lay your whole map out and you know these are going to line up here this way, so then it's just a matter of filling this in with parts from your mesh library here, your base parts. So here you can see there's a few extra pieces in here, there's a short wall, half wall, few things like this, brackets some places just to add an extra bit of detail, and yeah, so on. That's pretty much it then. And the level instances then, we'll just go to this empty sandbox map, and it's just, yeah, that's this is all it is. Like, you just drag one in, so you just snap it to there, and then you can just start building off that. So come down here, here's a straight section, oh, isn't that selected? Oh yeah, sorry, G, and then I left these off so that you can put these sections up here, and you can tell here in the middle, this is pretty much in the middle, so I left some cues in here, so that's why I don't like having that orange thing on there, because you can't see exactly where this is. So I left some cues, like you can see here where they line up, and then the middle sort of lines up here as well. So you can go inside, select that, and then you can hold Alt and then hold Shift to move along with it. And these level instances don't update, unfortunately, so you can't really, if you hold Shift, you can't see them while you're doing it. They don't update in real time until you let go of the mouse, and so on. Then yeah, it's just, you know, it makes it's pretty easy to, and you'll see here now, I want to rotate this 180 and just snap it into place. And then you can go along and like that demo level, I didn't plan any of that out, I just built it as I went, and I basically built it from inside here. I just stayed in here, dragged in a piece, and then zeroed it out on Z, and then just, you know, clicked it into place, moved along, excuse me, put the next piece in, clicked it in, then every now and again come out, take a look and say, okay, maybe I'll go this way, maybe a stairs here. Obviously if you're doing this as a proper level, well, I would anyway, plan it out on paper first. You know, you're going to have objectives or maybe card keys to get in through different doors are locked, blah blah blah. So I'd plan it out first. I wouldn't just randomly start putting pieces around, but you can do it. It's quick to do, and that's how we did that demo level. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that, because I think I've pretty much covered everything. And as I said, like those, once you have these, I'll just quickly show, which one is it here? Oh yeah, this one here, yeah. I'll just quickly show when we were in Painter. I think this scene, do I have? Oh yeah. This when we were in Painter, this was the threshold from the double doors, and as I was saying, you can just reuse these and repurpose them. So I've made an extra bit of a structure here out of these, so it gives an extra bit of interest. And this is also very useful for joining different. You can join different parts up, and it gives you different effects at the joins, and adds that extra bit of variation. And also the U-turn, another good example, where I made this kind of part here. Oh yeah, I don't think it's set up here for. I usually have the editor set up to rotate around selection. Yeah, so this part here, like this is just two of these, obviously back to back, and then because of the way I was shrinking down those UVs that would never be seen, I just added in this piece. That's just from one of the floor pieces, and then these are that little box I was talking about. Let me see, it's in the 90. It's just this little lintel block here. That's just a box with a texture and everything on it, and as I said, you can reuse all this stuff, and I end up using that here to create this like a wainscoting sort of a thing, and then just popped in this part, which comes from the four-way, I believe it is here. That's just that onto the wall, and that block is just scaled down and duplicated here, rotated, duplicate, rotated, and then it actually gives you a nice extra feature, kind of an architectural sort of a design there. And that is pretty much it. Obviously, yeah, your wall's going to connect straight in here, and that's just a U-turn on the map, and then you'd have a wall down the center here. So yeah, that's pretty much it then. I think I'm going to leave it at that, and hopefully there was some useful information. Hopefully it wasn't too boring, but a few people asked me to do this, so I thought I would. Alright then, thanks for watching. Cheers, thanks, good luck.